Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to my channel. This is Kamaria, and today we are doing my March spreads in my reading journal. And you see me here doing some of my yearly challenges because I always forget about them. So I have a DNF tracker of how many books that I get over 50% and just decide to stop. And then I have around the world, books from around the world. I have a 23 books in 2023. And I wanted to say I have one more, but oh yes, and a series tracker. Yeah, there it is. I knew I had one more. And I apologize for my voice. It is spring where I live already, and the pollen count is ridiculously high, and my allergies are off the charts, so forgive my voice. And yeah, this is my 23 and 2023 to see. Oh, and then I also have I'm trying to read some classics, but written by people of color. And I've only done like maybe half of one, because I have to be in the mood for classics. Really, I'm such a mood reader that I can't have like a TBR, like a plan for every month, I've realized, because I'm going to read what I want to read, what I'm in the mood for at the time. So I did a challenge. It was the Tour.com-a-thon. Whose channel was it? Oh, Beautifully Bookish Bethany was the one who did that challenge. And it was just reading all books from the Tor publishing house. They do a lot of science fiction, a lot of fantasy, a lot of female writers, a lot of POC writers, and LGBT. So that wasn't really that much of a challenge for me, if I'm being honest. I got a bingo. I wanted to go for a blackout, but oh well. I ended up reading 11 books in March, and only a handful of them were actually really good. I kind of had a blah reading month, honestly. Nothing really above 3 stars. And my 3 stars just kind of meh. Like, I liked it enough to not DNF, but it didn't blow my mind. But the 1 5-star I had was this current spread I'm working on that you're seeing. It's technically it's a YA, but I didn't read YA. It's Flower Heart, and it was a new release, actually, and it's basically like Howl's Moving Castle and Bridgerton. No, just any like kind of regions, or maybe more Pride and Prejudice. But it has a young girl who has magic that is flower based, but it's tied to her emotions. So whenever she gets upset, things go haywire. Flowers just grow out of the ground and things like that. And she wants to become like a proper mage that heals people, but her magic doesn't listen to her. And it's actually like an allegory for like the voices in your head that tell you that you can't do it and you're not good enough. It had a lot of very serious themes dealt with in a way that wasn't too soapboxy, and it wasn't like in your face, this is how I feel with depression, and da-da-da. The author made depression represented in magic, and it was really, really, really cool. And there's a love story, a kind of second chance childhood, second chance romance. And I did draw her in colored pencil because I've been really digging colored pencil lately. It's very soft, and I've been doing lots of sketches in colored pencil, and I really like the way they end up looking. And that's really interesting how I guess I'm a mood artist too, because there are some times that I just want to have like excellent coverage, more like with paint or markers. And then there's some times where I don't mind this kind of softer look of just colored pencils. So it's cool. I just really like this book. It was cottagecore. That's what the word I was looking for. It's has all the cottagecore vibes. So there's cottagecore, there's magical system. I do feel like the author put a lot into it because weirdly a lot of stuff happens and nothing happens. It's very complex but wonderful. I definitely like the trend of kind of fantasy when, kind of Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. It's low stakes. So like not a lot of happens, and it's not a lot of action, but it's very character driven and cozy. I've been very into cozy books lately, and also kind of horror, but we'll get into that later. So the next book that I really resonated with was Dating Dr. Dill. And I feel like so many people have issues with this book, so the ratings on like Goodreads are not great. But I feel like you have to go into this book with a understanding more of Indian culture. I love Indian culture. I'm not Indian myself, but I do like Bollywood, and there's a show on Netflix called The Indian Matchmaker, which if you have watched that, you'll probably like this book a lot because they talk about like arranged marriages and basically a lot of Indian families, they look at like biodatas. So they're basically like dating profiles, but like a matchmaker matches you or your family members. And there's lots of like side characters and background characters. And so essentially the plot is this woman is the older daughter, and in a lot of traditionally Asian families, the oldest daughter is expected to get married first to prove to show that they're a good family, but her younger sister gets engaged. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on because she's the older daughter and should get married first. And so she needs to get engaged in order to get her like bridal marriage money because she wants to buy a house that her mom built. And her father basically says, nah, you need to get engaged first before I give you this money. And so she's like, So she basically gets into like a fake dating thing, sort of, with this Dr. Dill guy. And they start out enemies. And of course they fall in love, like most things happen. But he is like super anti-love. And this whole book could have been avoided if we just learned about love languages. Because as they fall in love, like he's showing her that he loves her. But he doesn't say the words because he doesn't believe in it. But her love language is words of affirmation, and his is acts of service. So, but it's just really good. You got a lot of like aunties in the background, matchmaking, and lots of just Indian culture. I drew kind of a comic strip version. In the book, she wears sweater vests and glasses, and the middle panel is like a little bit of the cover. And then I found in a magazine a woman wearing a sari, and I have like an anatomical heart with flowers coming out of it. And the paper I used has like sweetheart and Valentine's Day. And then I drew like food, like Indian food, and just stuff that's from the book. And I think the spread came out really nice. And I just added some, stickers and things to make it cuter. But the book is lovely. There's lots of stuff, I'm sure, if you read the book that you'll think is a little weird. But if you go in kind of knowing a lot about Indian culture, it's just going to make you laugh. So that one really just ticked all the boxes for me as far as just loving other cultures and appreciating nosy family members and shenanigans. So yeah, I'm just adding some stickers, and there's lots of kind of non-dates that they have that surround food, and they go on like a scavenger hunt at a museum. Like, they go on fake dates, but y'all, we know they're real dates. But it was just a good time and got me out of my head for a while. And then the third book that I gave 5 stars, I actually read 3 middle grade graphic novels of witches in Brooklyn. And it was just really sweet. It's about an 11-year-old girl whose mother dies, and she gets kind of dumped on a long-lost aunt that she never met. So she is grieving her mother, but also then realizes that she has magic. So it's learning magic and coming to terms with grief, making friends. And so in this spread, I used like pictures from a magazine. So on one side I have like a greenhouse, because there's a greenhouse with her witchy aunts that she's staying with. And it's set in New York, so I have kind of like buildings and skyscrapers. And then I got this washi tape that has tarot cards. And tarot is kind of a central part of the story. And I've been trying to read more middle grade books, but it's hard for me to read middle grade fiction because I don't resonate with the characters because they're so young. And I'm not saying that middle grade doesn't have great stories, because it totally does. It's hard for me to get into it. But with graphic novels, it's easier for me to get immersed in the story. So it's just really cute and easy and wonderful. And then I added some of these like witchy magic stickers. And you'll see later on when I do the flip through that I added a drawing of the main character too, just to kind of round it out a bit. But it was just kind of easy. And sometimes after I read like a novel, like a full-length novel, so I don't stay in like a reading slump or a book rut, I read something that kind of comes easier to me. So that's either graphic novels, because they're easier to digest, or steamy romance novels on Kindle Unlimited, because they always get a happy ending and I don't really have to think too much. And I was actually in a reading slump for 2 years, or what I call a reading slump. I literally did not read regular, what I call quote unquote regular books. I only read Kindle Unlimited romance novels, which there's nothing bad, but it was easy to not use my brain and think. And if you're new here, I usually only make like spreads in my reading journal of books that resonated with me somehow. So I usually read a lot, 100 books a year, usually more than that, but I can't make a spread on every single book, especially if I didn't like it. So here's the flip through of what everything kind of looked like at the end. And then I added the main character, a drawing of her. And then I'll show you my cover page for April. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.